Five, four, three, two, one. We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to the hottest sounds.
Dream Catcher Radio.
Sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually, you've been planted.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You could stare me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground. Won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground.
Okay, we are back for episode 2-2. What does that mean in bingo terms? Just out of interest, is that 2 ducks in a row or something?
Something like that. 2 little ducks, was it? Yeah.
No. It's funny enough. I was trying to figure out what 3-1 meant yesterday. Apparently, it just means 3 and 1, 31. So anyway, 2 ducks in a row. With the Ralph Christie injustice case, and it's fantastic to follow this journey. If I'm perfectly honest, because I'm learning a lot about this case, and our listeners are too. We regularly get comments in asking questions, most of which are in various episodes, so we can point people in the right direction. So if you do have any questions, just email in to hello@dreamcatcherradio.co.uk. This is episode number 22. Each episode is approximately about 2 hours long, where we discuss issues in this case to prove injustice. And this is Ralph's story about someone who has maintained their innocence from day one, which does happen. And there's lots of innocent people in jail at the moment. It's suggested in various stats. You just go online and look at the numbers, and it will blow your mind. And there's also so many people that pled guilty in order to just get a reduced sentence and crack on with their life, to avoid going to trial. That may sound insane, but it does happen regularly, more than you possibly think. Now, Ralph, the how's things over there? And I understand the red cloud in the sky is gone.
That's gone, yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, brothers. Yeah, and we've got lots of sunshine. We've had our Easter, which is the week after yours, which is always the highlight of the year in Greece. You know, street parties and lamb on the spit. Church processions.
Oh yeah, how did the parties go?
Great fun. Yeah, what I can remember of them. Yeah, and they go on quite late in the morning, and there's kids out and granddads out, and they burn Judas on the bonfire at midnight, and then of course we have Christ is risen. We've had this 40-day of fasting. Well, I haven't, but the locals have. And then, of course, they're back on their meat again now. So, yeah, it's a great, good fun entertainment. No trouble, people dancing, singing. Very, very cultured and very well behaved.
And how long to go for? Is it multiple days? Or?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the Monday.
Mm.
Yeah, tremendous. Anybody, I'd recommend anybody to come for the Greek Easter.
Yeah, near me at the moment today, there's an Indian wedding going on. Normally in these weddings, there's normally hundreds, if not thousands of people turn up. And it's amazing to witness because they all dress up in their garb and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And, it started at 7 o'clock this morning. And it's interesting to watch. I mean, they must spend fortunes. On their weddings.
Yeah, it's all a show thing, isn't it? They do here on the Greek weddings. I mean, everybody's invited to a Greek wedding as well, even your enemies. So,
Well, they've got like professional film crews there and everything. They've got
Yeah.
trucks with cameras on and all this sort of stuff, and the dancers. And that started 7 o'clock this morning. Apparently, it's going to be finished tomorrow. I've heard of weddings going for a week. I think it's fantastic to celebrate. One thing I miss when I was younger is street parties. We used to do them all the time.
Yeah.
Never seen a street party ever in years and
Yeah.
years and years. I
I remember the
remember,
1977 Queen Elizabeth 25 years Jubilee street party. That was all, yeah, good fun.
yeah, about 10 years ago, I tried to organise a street party, and which involved a road closure. Bear in mind, it's a side road, and do you know what the neighbours objected? Because they couldn't park on their drive that day. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Even though the neighbours were invited and everybody was invited down the street, but
Yeah.
it was allowed. I did see in Spain, Netanyahu in an annual event they do there. What's those
Mhm.
things that where they smash up a donkey or whatever it is? What's that? What's it called? Jeez,
What, in Spain?
yeah, with a bat or something to
I'm
open
not
up.
sure.
There's like gifts that fall out or whatever.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so they do this every year apparently, and this time they had a big model of Netanyahu, which got exploded up with fireworks, which I thought was pretty relevant, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the diplomat there in Israel got reprimanded for what Spain did, but look at what Israel are doing. I know we're going off topic. I'm not asking you to answer it, but I just think what they're doing is so wrong, so wrong.
Yeah.
So many innocent people. Anyway, so let's talk through this. Where are we going to start? We're going to start. Let me just go back to something.
We kind of ended on Cedric last week, didn't we? We kind of rushed through that letter that he sent to Andrew West in December 2011, clearly stating that it all started with Stephen Thomas, and there was no crime against Benedict Clark or Richard Fernley. And then at the end of it, he mentioned that he had his commendation from Judge Durham Hall, who, 2.5 years after that email Cedric sent to Andrew West, Cedric has organised a trial in Bradford with Andrew West, with Judge Durham Hall being the judge. How that is not a conflict, I just don't know. And then Durham Hall ends up giving me 28 years of consecutive sentencing, which is absolutely ludicrous. But well, we all know what happened when Cedric and Declan did what they did in April 2014, and of course reported back to Andrew West, that person he sent the letter to that we read out last week. But I just wanted to get that in because obviously the main culprit here is Simon Thomas, because we know it now started with him in April 2006. So this is where this is how we're pulling the case apart. But we can't forget what Cedric and Declan did, because that fantastic article you did about the narrative. Outstanding, Bradders, because that absolutely captured it for me exactly what happened. My own defence and the prosecution, Andrew West, the prosecution witnesses, the judge himself. They're all part of a narrative, and the only people that didn't know about it was me and the jury. And even all the prosecution witnesses went along with it. I mean, 5 minutes from somebody like Jeff Brown or Charles Zanakis in the witness box, and the whole thing would have collapsed. So my own defence made sure that I wasn't having any defence witnesses, even though I was arguing, we need them. And then my own defence told me not to go in the witness box, and there's no way I wasn't going to go into the witness box. If I hadn't gone into the witness box, I'd have got 14 years probably.
That's a sad state of affairs. Yeah, we had a request from many, well, not many, probably about a dozen people asking if they can share that piece that I did on the narrative. Because I think it's so true. I actually do believe it. So we've shared it out where I've been asked to. And the thing is, if people understand the Stockholm syndrome, for example, is that I don't know if you've seen it, simple tests that have been done where it's in an interview room where candidates are going into the interview room and they basically two people there are actors and the rest are just candidates coming in one by one. The two actors, they press there's a noise, a buzzing sound. And as soon as the buzzing sound goes off, they stand up. So the first candidate, a genuine candidate, comes in, looks at them thinking, what the hell are you doing? And then it repeats itself multiple times. So say on the third time, the candidate starts standing up, not knowing what he's doing. And that repeats itself, repeats itself, repeats itself, repeats itself, repeats itself. With many candidates, none of them knowing why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing about the narrative. To give you another example, this is a study I did myself. It's got to be about 15, 20 years ago, where we were queuing outside a door. So I paid people to queue outside a door, big warehouse. There's no signage on the warehouse, but there's a door. And so there was about 6 people queuing outside the door, and the instruction was not to say anything, but just say we don't know. We're here.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened there, which is really, really interesting, is other people started queuing. Other people started posting on social media. Other people started coming up with stories, the narrative of why they were queuing. We think it's this. We think it's this celebrity is going to be here. We think it's that. And we then started, the media turned up, which was us, right? Probably going to be about 2 hours into this. This building was huge. And by the time the media turned up, and it wasn't media, it was just us, the queue must have been 100 strong.
Yeah.
But not one of them knew why they were queuing.
There. Yeah.
And this gets even crazier, this, right? So we start interviewing the people that are there. They all come up with, the local bit, the close, like, say, for example, people from 6 to 10 and 10 to 20, the story was slightly different of why they're queuing. And it was like Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
But the narrative was still the same. There was some celebrity coming or whatever. And that's the whole point, is why I talked about the narrative. Anyway, it got to about 400 people, and then the police turned up, wondering what was going on as well. And we said, we don't know. So we were playing dumb. Now, the interesting thing about this, we then put a tannoy out and said that we were doing this social study. And you know what? We got so much abuse. You've wasted our time.
Yeah.
But we never asked anybody to queue.
Yeah. Well, this is it's brilliant because you've captured exactly what happened after it's exonerated here. There shouldn't have been a trial in Bradford because it was dealt with. We'll touch that on the second thing that we're reading later on today. But the narrative, Cedric set the narrative with Declan and told, well, just scripted everybody to go along with it. We know it's a pack of lies he told Pat Brownette about all the money coming out of Zakros in November 2008. So shall we have a look at this John Jessup article?
Okay, I've got a question first.
Yeah.
Did you get a response to your voicemails from last week's episode?
What, the videos I did?
No, the voicemails when you phoned.
No. We'll call him again at some point this morning. I won't call him.
I didn't expect you would, but I just wondered. I was thinking the audience.
I think the guys, they've got serious problems. I did speak to Wharfdale Observer, which about the Thomas family. I mean, they're doing a lot of charity work for children's homes and all the rest of it. Maybe we can touch on a bit that later. I mean, there's a picture of Matthew and Alison Thomas and Simon Thomas when they did a towpath walk, what have you, from Leeds to I think I don't know how it might have been skipped, and and then so you got. I think this was 2020, and this is 9 years after Matthew has been to the police to report his uncle Stephen for abusing him as a child. So I think all this charity work that the Thomas families kind of do is part of a cover-up. I think they've got Ilkley's Jimmy Savile there with what's going on, and Stephen Thomas is probably bailed in Epstein. it's just pure evil, and the lengths that West Yorkshire Police have gone to defend them is unbelievable. You're talking about, they've put me, an innocent man, in prison. They've done. Stephen Thomas has done his confession. We know Simon Thomas has done all the embezzlement and hidden the money, and we know Cedric's done his confession. But they're the ones that are being protected because they've obviously got stuff on others. If there's a kiddie fiddler's ring going,
that's the only thing I can think of the reason why they must have stuff on them.
Exactly, and that's why the police don't police themselves, do it, especially at the higher ranks. Okay, you get a few PCs getting done for trivial things, but that Simon Bottomley is up to his absolute nuts in corruption in West Yorkshire Police. We'll touch on him later. That's the guy that we read out we did that recording saying 99% of police officers are straight and what have you. But him and Ramana Senior and Chris Rowley are the biggest instigators of putting me in jail unlawfully, and they should be in prison themselves. Andrew West should be. Keir Starmer's done the letter of retreat. Sue Watt's done all the lies in the fraudulent email. Where do we stop with this? But anyway, we've got this letter from John Jessup. He actually sent it out on the 2nd of September 2009, Bradders, to all the shareholders and investors and friends, family, stating that to counteract what DC Skidmore had sent out to the same people the day before, based on Sue Watt and Stephen Thomas's list of emails, saying that I wasn't bad off.
Remind listeners who John Jessup is.
John Jessup was my co-accused. He was mentioned in the Keir Starmer letter of requests full of lies about him, Cedric, and me, and my ex-wife Jane. So he was part of the trial here, but he was fully exonerated. But then he was in the dock with me in Bradford, and quite rightly so, got fully exonerated. But of course, he was using O'Gara, who was a solicitor of mine before Cedric had told me, don't use O'Gara, he's bent in 2010 or whatever it was. I was just led by Cedric because I didn't realise what a criminal he was. John Jessup was a long-term friend, very good friend, and he was helping us get on the UK Plus market. He was working with Darren Brown doing that. But I don't think he ever came back to Crete. I think O'Gara recommended him not to come back to Crete at all until after my trial. I don't think he has been back, but really, he should have come back. He should have helped me defend myself here. And again, the trial in the UK shouldn't have gone ahead because it's double jeopardy.
Yeah. Was he an investor also, or was he just?
He had a share in Placis Palace. Yeah. But he was paid a salary to do a certain job. It was just like Sue Watt was. I mean, Sue Watt was for the EU funding. John Jessup became employed, let me have a guess, maybe January 2009. And his job was then to work with Darren Brown to do the UK flotations.
Yeah, okay. And that's his specialty, is it? That's his expertise.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll read this out.
Okay.
I have got an email that come through to the radio station, which I'll ask you about, which stood out to me, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone asking a question specifically of you. So I'll read that out afterwards. Okay, here we go. It has come to light that many, if not all of you, have received an email from the police asking for contact to provide information in connection with your business dealings with Ralph. I will explain why this has come about, but please be assured that there is absolutely no cause for concern in connection with your investment in the wholesale site at Blackets. Obviously, it transpires that everybody should have concern due to subsequent events, because that email was sent was cataclysmic. The site. Sorry.
So I was just going to say the Placket Cedric and Declan had made this another count at Bradford, even though DC Skidmore dropped it from the inquiry in May 2010 because he knew it was genuine. And then, of course, all the counts connected to Placket's Palace I got not guilty for.
The site is owned outright. I think is right. I pronounce that as Veron. Is that right?
Veron, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought from memory. Spelt BAPON. And remains a valuable asset for all of us. Oh, right. So he is a stakeholder in it, that have invested in its future. The issue with the authorities stems directly from a malicious complaint made to them by Stephen Thomas. Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that when you're talking about, this all stems from Simon Thomas. I think they're in concert together, Stephen Thomas and Simon Thomas, because I actually believe that you were a money laundering conduit, based
Yeah,
on the evidence
yeah,
we've
of
seen
course.
today, which involves both of them,
Yeah,
who you may or may not know. Thomas was a business partner for a couple of years and invested with Ralph in a number of projects. Can I just ask, were you involved in writing this email, or did he just do it of his own accord?
I know I wasn't involved in it at all. He just did it. I didn't know.
Okay.
No.
But ironically, not Plakis. And until recently, was on board with the ideas for the planned expansion of Ralph's company, etc. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
land deal. Sorry.
Can I just say that, yeah, the expansion was exactly what John Jessup was working on with Darren Brown, which was on the UK Plus market to secure everybody's assets, not just in Placius, but also in the Keira land and St George's Retreat. So these were stuff that we were going to float on the UK Plus market to generate capital in the city. So everything was, this is the 2nd of September, contrary to what Skidmore's written the day before. This is what was still going on.
Yeah. You actually paid quite a lot of money towards that, didn't you, in the plus market?
Paid nearly 300,000, yeah. And it was evidence that Bradford got not guilty. A 25 million euro count or sterling count.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of the plus market before, if I'm honest, Ralph, but I did do some research. And just for the sake of listeners, it does exist. It's called the Plus Market Group, formerly OFX, and was a London-based recognized investment exchange launched in 2005 to compete with London stock exchanges, alternative investment market, a small cap listing, that means capital,
I
offering.
mean, we're thinking of going back on the Greek stock market later this year or early next year. There's no way I would entertain going on the UK plus on any market in the UK now, and the future's looks a lot brighter in Greece than it does in the UK. So the whole of Veron might end up doing in 2026 or 2027 what it should have been allowed to do in 2020, 2009, 2010, which Matthew and Benedict Clark were the biggest funders of, with 500,000.
Okay. Goes on to say here, offering equity trading and listing services. This may actually help you out in some respects in your decision making. It specializes in cost effective listing for smaller companies, however, closed in 2012 following financial difficulties and subsequent buyout by ICAP. That's what that's about. So it doesn't seem they're around, but ICAP may be the new invention of it. I don't know. Let's move on back to this email. Unfortunately, a land deal that Ralph and Thomas invested in did not produce the returns that was hoped for. Which land deal was that?
Well, obviously, John Jessup at this stage, we've got no idea that Simon and Stephen Thomas have told Sue what, or Sue what's told them that St George's Retreat is a fraud in May 2009. So I don't think we realise, John Jessup actually realised what the background was here, which, it's an innocent kind of mistake. I think the deal he's talking about is Zakros. Now, I got the valuation for Zakros on the 3rd of September 2009, the day after this, which was 25 million plus the taxes, which is what I'd been to Australia for, waiting for. So the Ministry of Oman would give me the deposit on the land. But then Ramadan started, and I came back to, I probably came back to Crete, and all this nonsense had started. And come the end of Ramadan, which was, let's say, September the 20th that year, DC Skidmore had been in touch with the Ministry of Oman saying that I was a fraudster. So down the pan with that.
So innocence before guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
He admits
like
it
I
when
say,
he's
like I
interviewing
say,
Jeff Brown.
the presumption of innocence in the UK doesn't really exist, to be honest. And I believe genuinely everywhere around the world, the you're never presumed innocent, in my opinion, when you're in a courtroom, um, especially in criminal proceedings. To do it as helpful, and it was this one disappointing deal that seemed to trigger the events that followed. Thomas immediately asked for his entire investment in Crete to be returned, notwithstanding the fact that his money had been invested in land and property, which of course cannot simply be realized overnight. Makes perfect sense to me. Um, the I suppose what you could do, and I think we may have discussed this in one episode, is introduce new investors to buy them out at a cheap rate.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know at this stage. Sue, what was still we thought was still working for us at this date. We didn't know she'd
Really?
been working and paid an amount of money since May 2009 to go against me. John's trying to understand what's actually gone on. Now we know he demanded all his money back simply because he didn't want to pay the tax on the gift of his father. That's the reason. It wasn't to do with this land. John's innocently saying what he thought happened, but now here we are in 2026. We've now discovered Sue Watt has said there's a fraud on St George's Retreat. Cedric has told Glenn Acornley that he's been under investigation by West Yorkshire Police, which I never knew about. He's been diagnosed with his morbid jealousy of me, police burnout, depression, suicidal, all the rest of it. And this is suited the Thomases because they've used all this now because they don't have to pay the tax on the gift of the dad because, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. And this was sent one day after finding out of the police email, yeah?
Well, yeah, because if John Jessup was copied in, Benedict Clark was copied in, and Benedict rings me up. He said,
So the point being, he had limited information to hand of actually what was going on.
And he's based it on Stephen Thomas's and Sue Watts and Michael and Kimberly and Simon Thomas's statements that are given in July. And bear in mind, on the 7th of September, who's being interviewed, which we spoke about last week, by DC Richard Ford, John Gregory Stevenson. So the police already know that Stephen Thomas is a rapist, and then they're backing what he's saying to them in July 2009 and going after me, who's never committed a crime in his life and running businesses legitimately, and they've believed him and then gone straight after me. So it's back to the contacts, isn't it? Alistair Bateman, the Suzanne Hoy, the CPS York, who's definitely protected the rapist Stephen Thomas. They all live in Ilkley. And, it goes back to this. So it's quite staggering that West Yorkshire Police, well, we now know that they're investigating Cedric, don't we? From September 2008, DC Skidmore and D.I. Taylor, Ingrid Ree, Francis Norton. So this is how it's all kind of clicked into place. But they suddenly picked on me, who's living 2,000 miles away in Crete, trying to secure people's money by going on an FSA registered investment scheme in the UK. And it's just all started from this, and it's gone on and on and on, and here we are in 2026, and it's great reading this out because it's showing how, from how it started to how we've got to the truth now, after 22 episodes of Dreamcatcher Radio.
Okay, it goes on to say, but more disturbing was his complete refusal to discuss matters personally. I'm guessing that's between you and him, would it?
Yeah.
Instead, preferring to take a course of action that was clearly intended to damage Ralph and his business, without regard to the financial implications. That's very true, actually, because I actually don't believe he managed. He actually thought about the destruction that he caused. But who knows?
He told the police he wasn't a business partner. Sue Watt said he wasn't a business partner. Michael and Kimberly Thompson, well, he was on the board of Veron until he was had to be come off because the Inland Revenue in the UK wouldn't allow him to come on it. So, it's just based on all their statements to the police in July 2009 that started this were based on lies.
Okay, the complaint that Thomas has made to the police is therefore just one element of a malicious campaign on his part to undermine Ralph, his family, and his business without just cause and without considering the financial implications for all of us, not just Ralph's business. The reality is the arrangements we all have with Ralph are private and personal business agreements. And as such, that doesn't make sense actually. And as such, there is no wrongdoing. That doesn't say that you're not doing anything wrong. But I understand what he's trying to say there. But that, your private dealings doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong in the background. So I'll disagree with that. I believe Thomas is attempting to suggest the presence of a legal investment company, which of course is nonsense.
Yeah, but we had Monte Crete, I think it was. Monte Cristo, the carpet company. Monte Crete was the brand name that we used here, but Verone was the corporate company because it's not a marketable name, is it? Verone spelt the wrong way in the UK, so it was just a brand name. It all came out in Bradford Crown Court 6 years after this that Monte Crete was a brand name and Verone was the corporate company, rightfully so. But the Sue Watt put in the fraudulent email and the email with Starmer to the Greeks in 2011 that Ralph Christie was running illegal companies, which of course John says is nonsense.
Okay, we're going to go on to this paragraph, then we're going to have to go to a break. I want to try and read it out as quick as I can. I disagree with what he said here. However, the police, having received the complaint, are obliged, of course, to react to it. The police, hardly ever respond to complaints. However, the financial crime, they're quite interested in some respects, sometimes, especially the City of London.
Especially if they're investigating Cedric beforehand.
Yeah. That's where the appetite comes from, all these different directions. Hence the email that is sent out by them. There is clearly nothing to substantiate the complaint. Again, I disagree because we don't even know the context of the complaint at this juncture. Hence the need to seek information from some of us. But again, it is understandable that the police have to conduct certain inquiries to demonstrate that the matter has been investigated. I'm going to pause there. Now, the difference is, right, what is missed here is that the police basically put a sledgehammer to this situation straight away in that first email. There was no if, buts, or maybe. They basically collapse your business.
Yeah, they did, yeah. But I think...
without even speaking to these investors, they just basically, bam.
Yeah, I mean, I think John got hauled in, and I'd already given my first police interview on the 31st of July when they asked me to go in for a chat, I didn't even think I was under caution. I did go in for my chat and told them what was happening just before I went to Australia. So I think I think it's very, very well written myself, this, because it covers everything. But I don't think he even realised that it was a sledgehammer at that point, or I didn't. We just thought, well, Stephen Thomas has gone and told the police some crap. They're not going to believe it, and we're just going to get on with things.
Well, he misunderstood that, didn't he? Okay, we need to go to a break. What would you like to do to introduce your first song, Ralph?
Well, I'm going to play that lovely tune from the old film The Sting. So I think it was Joplin that played it, and the tune is The Entertainer.
Okay, we're going to play that now. The interesting song there. I've never heard it before, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm quite intrigued by the film that you mentioned. Now, before we go back to John Jessup, I mentioned I had an email which got flagged to me by the team in the week, and it's from a gentleman called Pat Brownette. And it says this. I've been copied in on this email along with a few other people. Hi, Ralph. The things that I'm sure amazes everyone is that you have every email and every memo, scrap of information on all matters except in capitals. You cannot produce anything confirming an agreement and supposedly made with Peter. I don't know who Peter is. Oh, yeah. Okay. On the 1 million plus interest you owe Terrence, I think it's
yeah.
Okay. What do you say about that?
Well, the good thing about Pat is I think I don't think he's embroiled in any of the corruption and what have you, and he does answer back, which would, it's not like Cedric or Declan or Simon or Stephen Thomas or Sue Watt. They're all part of The Sting, which was a film actually in the 1960s with Robert Redford, where I think two people did a sting, and of course, this is exactly what Simon and Stephen Thomas have done. So that's where that song. So at least Pat does come back, and I've replied to that email again since then. It goes back to a document that was actually in the jury bungle, so it definitely exists. It's just completely something I can't get my hands on, but it was in folder 14 in the jury bungle, so it does exist. It was an agreement I made in Manchester with Bill Morris, who was Peter Morris's younger brother. Who was a friend of Mark Edwards, actually, that ended up money laundering with Stephen Thomas in Monaco, which we spoke about previous. Well, I met Bill Morris in Manchester. His daughter was at university at the time. I remember it quite well. And pulled up on, it was Stockport Road, met him, had a sandwich, gave me this document. He says, sign here. I signed it. He says, oh, Peter will be so pleased you've signed that. That's great. And all the rest of it. And that really was the end of the Queen's Bench order, because the money had come out of Howard Tennant's in that agreement. And it was now personal between me and Peter Morris, which is why he came down on the 31st of January 2010 in his private jet to take St. George's Retreat Hotel site, which Matthew Benedict Clark had valued by Colliers International November 2009, because Benedict Clark was going to put it into his name in December 2009, but DC Skidmore, if you remember, it was mentioned in a previous programme, rang Benedict Clark up when he was with me to put at the solicitor's office here, to put the name into Benedict Clark, and Skidmore said to Benedict Clark, don't put that into your name, because you'll be classed as taking proceeds of crime. So Benedict came over here, met me, to do it. Then so he said, I can't do it. And I can remember I rang Cedric up straight away. I said, Cedric, I've just had Matthew Clark over here. Skidmore's rung him 10 minutes before he's going to put this land into his name and saying he can't do it. Now, I didn't know Cedric, again, at this stage, was being investigated himself. But anyway, so that's what happened with that. And Pat Brownette, unfortunately, in 2014, fell for all the narratives that Cedric and Declan told him after they came back here from their trip in April 2014. And Pat ended up putting about 80 exhibits into West Yorkshire Police at that time. And the matter was clearly settled. It was nothing to do with Howard Tennant. They've written it off. So it's fraud they've committed, really, for Pat and Julian to turn up in Bradford Crown Court saying I still owe them $1 million, when they've claimed probably 40% tax relief back, which reduces it by 600,000. They've had land from St. George's Retreat, which is 600,000. They had 200,000 still in Bali and 200,000 still in Zakros. So it's the most, I mean, it was all overturned at the Pocker hearing, because once I came out of prison, could explain it to Cedric's appointed Judge Durham Hall on the 25th of April 2018, to a hearing that I wanted Pat Brownette to come to, and Cedric and Declan and a few other people, but they never turned up. And Durham Hall took it out of pocket, says, hey, okay, we can see that matter's settled, so we'll reduce your pocket from 1.6 million to 400,000. And I can remember saying to Judge Durham Hall, well, you've just given me a 7-year sentence about that. He says, I'll make some further inquiries into that, Mr. Christie, but we're not going to debate that today. So, but we'll keep. I'm glad you brought Pat Brown up because he's a bit of an old dinosaur, and hopefully before he's taken, that he can see the truth.
Right. Okay. All right. You need to help me out here because I've got multiple screens open. Where we left off, John Jessup. If you can just start it off and I'll find it.
Yeah, you just got this. It started to read. However, the police have received a complaint and are obliged to, of course, to react to it. Hence the email that has been sent out by them. There is clearly nothing to substantiate the complaint. Hence the need to seek information from some of us. So I don't know if you want to continue, Bradders, or
Go on, carry on talking so I can find it. Just carry on.
But again, it is understandable that the police have to conduct certain inquiries to
We've done that.
demonstrate.
We've done that bit already. We've done that bit already. It's worth further down for sure.
Well, then it'd be, I would suggest that a simple email reply to send to the police. Yeah.
Mm.
John says, I would suggest that a simple email reply be sent stating that we have all known Ralph for many years and are entirely satisfied with our private business arrangements with him. Or words to that effect.
I found it now. Okay. Yeah. All right. Apologies about that. I do not think that anything more needs to be said. He's made that really simple, though, in all fairness, because any investor would be horrified to be contacted by the police, as in that it did happen in this case.
It's funny they weren't, Bradders. A lot of them were being, this is a joke, isn't it, Ralph? I mean, David Folkes and Helen Folkes, even Benedict Clark, he says this is some sort of joke, isn't it? And then, of course, Matthew Clark goes and does a deal with me 3 weeks later for 500,000.
And how did that work out?
Well, that became the count then, didn't it? Because DC Skidmore, when he found out about that, the Sue Watt sent out the fraudulent email that Benedict Clark got, which we've spoken about before. He hit the roof when he got that, because basically she'd written it in the name of John Jessup. So John Jessup, who's written this genuinely, was then sent out a fraudulent email produced by Sue Watt, probably West Yorkshire Police, because of the content of it, and Stephen Thomas, saying that I was a fraudster and all the rest of it. So that's how this all started. So that was all concocted. And this is all based on the lies of Sue Watt and Stephen Thomas and Simon Thomas from May 2009. So that's how that happened.
It goes on to say, if any of you want to speak to me or Ralph, we are, of course, both available at any time to discuss this and any other matter. As far as Placus is concerned, the funding application is progressing, which obviously she was responsible for, and abandoned it, albeit slowly. The latest news I have is that some outstanding documentation and reports should be available in 3 weeks, which includes the environmental impact study completed last May.
Yeah, that's a cost of €100,000.
What for an environmental impact study?
Yeah.
Really? How many bedrooms is that hotel?
72. Yeah, it was having.
It's not even that many bedrooms. It cost $100,000.
We were gonna, the application Sue Watt put in was she ring fenced 19 million, didn't she?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I can't remember to be exact. Rather said
that seems like a lot of professional fees for a 72-bedroom resort stroke hotel. Anyway, we'll have to.
It might have been 25. I can't remember. It's umpteen years ago, isn't it? There's that many different. We've got figures here of 10,000 here. Then we've got other figures of 25 million. There was, whether it was a small amount or a large amount, there was no crime anyway.
Yeah, but there was a study done. Because I've done quite a few environmental impact studies and rights of lights and stuff like that, which I've had to pay for. But 100,000, that seems a lot. Anyway, let's move on. The application obviously relies upon the individuals who are party to the applications being whiter than white. The application. What does it mean by that? The application obviously relies upon the individuals who
meaning me. It was me who was putting the application in because I was the chairman of Veron, so I had to be whiter and white. And Sue Watt herself in March 2009 put me forward as the chairman of Veron with a glowing reference, which came back that I was whiter than white. Plus, I was whiter and white in the UK at that time as well. So you can't, I can't put in EU funding if I've got a criminal record or done anything dodgy.
Yeah, it goes on. Okay, explains it. Okay, yeah, explains it further. And whilst this is the case, there is no possibility of progressing the application to the final stages until all the issues surrounding Ralph has been dealt with, which makes perfect sense. Regardless of the fact that they will come to nothing. Sadly, it didn't come to nothing. As a result, the situation has forced the suspension of the services of Sue Watts. Oh, okay. So you knew now that Sue Watts was involved?
No, she was still pretending as if she was working for us. She did do a resignation off.
Why did you suspend her then?
I don't want to make anything up. I'm just trying to think about what kind of happened. I mean, I'd just been to Australia for 3 weeks to clinch the Ministry of Oman deal, and I was working. She might have suspended herself, but I mean, bear in mind, she'd already been given a statement to the police in July 2009 that we didn't know anything about. She told Stephen Thomas, as she confirmed in her minutes to the council in March 2021, that she had informed a large investor that I had embezzled 11 million from him, which was Stephen Thomas. Well, Stephen Thomas was a business partner. She was telling her council that he was a large investor. So I didn't even know what Sue Watt's role was until November 2009, when she was a defence witness here for the first hearing for the Greek trial, and she turned up with Stephen Thomas there when I turned up with Nikos Nikolsodakis. And of course, we didn't even know she'd done the fraudulent email. We just, I thought that was Michael and Kimberly Thompson that had done it. She's
okay. All right. I've never heard of someone suspending themselves, if I'm perfectly honest. That email that was written was not in good faith whatsoever. Anyway, but the situation has forced the suspension of services of Susan Watt, which would appear to me that you and John Jessup has suspended her. Okay, let me just carry on. Who is applying for funding on our behalf? That's never been denied. For a couple of months until matters are resolved. Now, after all this time, Ralph, did you suspend her?
Obviously, she went back to the UK at the end of May 2009, and she said to me that she was going to the UK for 3 months, so she couldn't work anyway. But I didn't know that she was actually she was on Stephen Thomas's payroll from the end of May 2009, where they were giving her £3,000 a month right the way up till May 2013 before the trial here. So I think you could say she did suspend herself, because she just said she was going to the UK to do some work, but we now know that she was actually the linchpin to start all operation.
No, I get that. But go back to chronology, which is quite important in these situations. Did John Jessup suspend her?
No, she suspended herself.
She suspended herself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have no need to suspend her because I wanted her to do the job, and John Jessup wouldn't have the authority to suspend her. She was just double dealing, wasn't she? She was trying to still talk to us.
I get that. But we need to take ownership of stuff where ownership needs to be taken. It says as a result, the situation has forced a suspension of the service of Sue Watts, which suggests you, or indeed John Jessup, jointly or severally suspended her. That's what it suggests here in this letter. So, and you're saying that didn't happen. She suspended herself, right?
Well, we can read out a suspension letter that she did, but I think the suspension letter was about 7 days after this went out. Because obviously she couldn't be a police informant and then still be on the board of a Greek company that she's saying is fraudulent.
Okay. Right. The situation is disappointing in terms of progressing Placas Palace for us. But Thomas's assertions have left us with little choice at this time. Yeah, that's true. Some of you may be aware of a related hotel and development site of, I don't know, how do you
Lufus Flores.
right, which is also subject to a funding application. Did Sue start that one as well?
Yeah, and St George's Retreat hotel site. She was on with that as well in April 2009.
Okay. Thomas and his brother have between them a 40% stake in this investment. Oh, right. So they've already started. Is that in terms of deposit down on the site or whatever?
Oh, the actual name we called Lofus Flores was the name that we put forward to, or Sue Watt, she came up with that name, and she put that forward to the Invest in Greece, which was a funding company. This is the famous Manford Hill that we've spoken about on many shows, where Simon Thomas had lied to the family court saying his dad bought it in 2006. And they still have a 40% stake in it today, to the Thomases. And we'll probably, the stupid thing is, unless the Thomas brothers are still allowed to stay at large, even though they seem to be rapists and kiddie fiddlers and all the rest of it, and embezzled all this money and not paid tax, they might end up still making money out of that.
Okay. Do you have any control over that?
Yeah. It's an ongoing project. It's been held up, of course. We bought this in 2006 with money from the gift from the father that Stephen Thomas lied about sending any of his family in January 2007. This is the great thing about reading this out. It just clarifies everything. So, Stephen, this is without a doubt. Simon has used me in 2006. They've caught a cold because the dad's died. They didn't tell Jane Thomas about the money. They sent me 1.1 million of it, which was easy to justify, but then they've got 40% of it in tax. So they've overspent the money, and they've come up with this idea with Sue Watt in May 2009. Well, the way to stop paying the taxes will criminalise well. Forgot about all the other investors and other friends that they met over here and all the rest of it. Just pure greed, nastiness and deviousness.
Okay. It goes on to say, and not coincidentally, do not want to have their investment in this sister project to be Placus returned to them. What does that mean then?
They do not have their investment in this sister. Well, it was a sister project to Placus Palace, because the brochures that Sue Watt produced was Lufus Florus and Placus Palace. And I think she ring-fenced 11 million for there. It wasn't as far on. I mean, she definitely did the 19 million in December 2008. And then it was going to be 11 million for that, which I think Manford was going to Athens to secure that. And then there was another 400,000 for the hotel site in St George's. So they're still wanting to go on with this one, even though they've caused all this alarm for all the Placus Palace shareholders.
Okay. They realise it's a good investment sought for them by Ralph, and based on it is around the funding application being made for the development. That's to get EU funding, right? But Thomas himself clearly had another agenda, which he cannot see potential damages his own investment in the site. This blinkered thinking seems lately typical of both his thoughts and his actions, and tells us much about the individual concerned. I'd read that, me personally, as trying to make some sort of substantive argument, but doesn't. It's just a personal attack on Thomas.
I mean, John is writing this, isn't he, in defence of the police letter? So we don't know anything at this stage. We just got some police inquiry. What's all this about? We're continuing doing our jobs. I'm paying him. I think Sue Watt was being paid up to a certain stage as well, which I'm being paid by the Thomases. So the problem is the Thomas brothers have caused this problem because of their own personal family problems. And
I get that. Okay. But the way that's worded is not proper. The next paragraph makes a bit more sense. Therefore, Thomas has much to answer for, risking, as he does, the situation for all of us. That makes perfect sense to me. I would ask that you be aware of this and have in mind the reckless nature of his actions. Again, that makes sense to me. Clearly, he has some issues, but to allow the matter to become personal rather than financial is ill considered and foolish, and potentially causes unnecessary worry for us all, where none needs to exist. Having said all this, I restate that there is no cause for concern. The investment at Placus is not at risk. Actually, on that point as well, the Placus in some respects is still in your arena, isn't it?
Well, yeah, everything is still in my arena here. Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised at the lack of shareholders that have not responded to this program. There's some very close friends that I still communicate with, but there's people. Maybe I won't name, or Chris Howard, Paul Dewsbury, just don't seem interested in it at all, and have just completely forgotten about it. But I'm just okay. I spent 4 years in prison. It's taken me a long time to sort it back out. But when the market here is booming, so and of course I'm still going to sue West Yorkshire Police or the Thomas brothers now, because it's quite clear they're criminals. Declan. These people that have got assets are the ones that have caused the people to lose the money, not Ralph Christie. So.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be writing to West Yorkshire Police. My plan is to do it next week. And Ralph is doing his best to progress matters, under difficult circumstances for the continued benefit of us all. We have plans for expansion into the UK. Is that correct?
Yeah, the plus market.
Oh, I see. And we will remain focused on overall objectives of creating a successful business underpinned by profitable developments here in Crete. Please do not hesitate to drop me a line or call me if you would like to discuss matters. Are you still in contact with John Jessup?
No. We'll read on. The next piece that you're going to read out is about the bad character thing, because I think the police and Mike O'Gara, his lawyer, they put a divide between me and him.
Right.
I don't know how much John was for or against me at the trial, to be fair, but we were in the dock for right up until he was rightfully acquitted. No, I've got no problem with seeing him, or if he wants to come, or and just. But I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But there you see, clearly stated at the end of his letter that it was going to create a successful business underpinned by the profitable developments. This is going on to the UK plus market. And Benedict Clark and Matthew Clark gave us 500,000 3 weeks after this letter had gone out, after meeting me and John Jessup, explaining exactly what we were doing. And then the Sue Watt fraudulent email completely cocked all that up. Bank accounts were frozen, and all lies and narratives were started, and here we are. But it's April 2026, and we're making progress. Would I go through it all again? Probably not if I didn't have to, but I'm certainly the sort of guy that can go through all this and turn it in my favour.
Yeah, I'm just been reading this now, actually. So this is that actual application from John Jessup. Okay. Bear with 1 second. Okay, so this is an application from what appears to be defence solicitor for John Jessup. I just want to remind listeners that Ralph rightly says, he says that John Jessup ought not to have been convicted, and he wasn't. And he was a co-defendant in this matter. It's actually quite interesting because what happened here is John Jessup has made an application to the court to introduce, am I reading this right, yourself, Ralph, as bad character?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, bear in mind, we've just written out what John wrote on the 2nd of September 2009. Now we're 2.5 years later, January the 8th, 2013. Obviously, the Levy letter's gone out, sorry, Keir Starmer letter's gone out to Greece 2011, saying that John Jessup, Ralph Christie, and my ex-wife Jane Stovall are committing massive frauds in Greece and all the rest of it. They don't own anything and then selling Ponzi schemes, which was obviously penned by the great Sue Watt again. So now he's got a bit jittery here. He's got Michael O'Gara's solicitor, which was the one I was going to use originally, but Cedric told me it was bent, so don't use him. And of course, me and John Jessup were using him together at the start, but John decided to stay with O'Gara. I think we'd had a management hearing at Calderdale Magistrates Court in 2011, and Neil Wilby and Cedric and I tried to get John Jessup on one side, saying, look, don't use O'Gara, with one thing or another. But John's decided to stay with him. Now, I've got no problem really with O'Gara. It's just more bullshit from Cedric, isn't it, about lawyers and solicitors. So this is sent to Taya Valley, that was at ITN Solicitors in London. The 2nd of January 2013. Do you want to read it out, brothers?
Yeah, I want to talk about something about bad character in court first, though. It's quite I mean, I get it because he's a codee and he wants to stand on a pedestal. I understand that. But he's put himself in the same arena as you. But what, bad character, I guess he's alluding to that he was misled just like everybody else. But let's just have a quick look at bad character mean in court. In court, bad character evidence refers to information showing the defendant, in this case you, Ralph, has a propensity for misconduct, such as previous criminal convictions, which you already said you have none, cautions, or reprehensible behaviour defined in the Criminal Justice Act 2003. It suggests a tendency to commit crimes or act dishonestly rather than being generally bad person. Now, one thing that interests me about this is the evidence they've provided here in their application is very, very weak. Okay, I'm just going to read. Were you treated as being a person of bad character in the end on the back of this?
No. There's no truth in it. I mean, this again, the big thing about this is O'Gara, and it's signed off by Richard, it's at the bottom, I can scroll down. He was his QC at the trial. These knew that there was a trial that went on in Greece that Osful is honerated from. So there shouldn't have even been the trial in Bradford by John Jessup's defence, because John was cleared here as well. Complete nonsense, a complete setup. But me and John were stood in the dock chatting away most days, but he was told to distance himself from me because for various, well, I suppose his lawyer would advise him, but I said he wouldn't go for a drink with me after the trial or anything like that, and other than what people were coming out with, and that's not true, John, and this isn't true, but I think I just don't know what happened to him, really. He certainly didn't stand by me, and he should have done.
Well, I think he looked after his own arse. And it worked out for him, didn't it? And it says here, this is dated 2nd of January 2013. I'll just, break it down a little bit. You will note the application is about full details. I'll say what, it has very limited details, if anything. And we wait information from the prosecution. The application is served in this way as more particularized application once the prosecution has provided details of the prosecution in Crete. Now, you've stated your post here. Okay, anyway, but by the sounds of it, you're saying the application was heard and you were not treated
Well,
as
Andrew West hasn't disclosed anything at the main trial in 2015. He still hasn't disclosed anything at this date, 3 months before the one count against Benedict Clark meant to be heard on the 7th of April 2013. But they conveniently got me locked up in Crete, didn't they, on the February 2017? So that trial didn't go. Sorry, 2013. So that trial never went ahead. But here it says, where the prosecution has provided details of the prosecution in Crete, which was started by the Crown Prosecution of the UK. The Greeks have never considered me as a criminal. They've based it all on what Andrew West and Sue Watt and Starmer sent over to start this criminal trial. So, of course, I've got acquitted here. Well, why aren't they asking, why isn't O'Gara asked at the court case where I am about what happened to John Jessup and Jane Snowball Christie's and my case in Greece? They just kept quiet about it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go through this application introducing bad character of a co-defendant. This is actually quite common, listeners. Where everybody blames each other. However, in this case, this application, I don't even know why they prepared it in such a weak form. It doesn't come with really any substance. I haven't read it during the break. Okay, the defense has previously indicated both orally and through the defense statement that the defense of John Jessup may involve the exploration of wider business activities of the co-defendant Christie. The defense understands that the Greek authorities consider Christie wider business activity to be fraudulent and facing criminal proceedings in Greece in that regard. Now, before you comment on that, that's got nothing to do with bad character. And also, where do they get the assertion that basically the Greek authorities have said your activities are fraudulent?
Because they've seen this Keir Starmer letter.
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm saying is this is totally different, right? Yeah. They're basically the proposition. Again, this is guilty before even going to trial. Yeah. This has got nothing to do with bad character. This is just throwing mud, and let's just see which sticks.
Okay, let's go back to the defense lawyer of Stephen Thomas in December 2006 and January 2007, which was Richard Manning, who put his head in his hands when Stephen Thomas lied about no money going to Greece. Richard Manning also knew that Stephen Thomas had raped Simon Thomas's son when he was a child. That was mentioned in a previous program. We've seen the Facebook things. Richard Manning knew that Simon and Stephen Thomas's dad had died and they had to pay 40% tax gains. I sent an email to Richard Manning, which we've had out on a program 2 or 3 episodes ago. I haven't heard from him at all. He's now working at Ibsen's or something like that in Leeds. Now, where do you think Richard Manning was working when this was written? For O'Gara's in Leeds. So this is where it's all come from. So they're protecting Stephen Thomas.
That's the solicitors.
Sorry?
That's the solicitors.
Yeah, the solicitors are O'Gara's, yeah. But Richard Manning became a partner there for a short period of time after he left wherever he was working when he was defending the Thomas's lies in the family court in Harrogate that we read out previously. So this will be why that's come out. I don't know if his name's not actually on the list of officers there. Yeah. And then, of course, Richard Wright was a QC that defended John Jessup. Well, John Jessup, Richard Wright, Michael O'Gara, Richard Manning all knew Stephen Thomas was a self-confessed rapist. Yeah. But none of this is mentioned at Bradford Crown Court because they're all in bed together with Ray Singh, the circuit judge that's connected to Hussein Koza at Peffridge's in Bradford. Then we've got the golf club connection. Then we've got the Masons connection. So they're all just out to get me.
How old is John Jessup? Is that of interest?
Sorry?
How old is John Jessup?
How old?
Yeah.
Same age as me. I played a lot of football with him. I've known him since I was probably 21, 22 years old. Carpeted a lot of houses for him. He did some buy to lets. He was working with me over here. He was very good at his job. But of course, once that Keir Starmer letter came out, of course he's panicking, thinking he's going to go to prison here. He never came back. He never even turned up at the trial. He never was involved with it. I think he was under the impression he could still be actually he could still probably get arrested if he came back for not turning up. Just like Stephen Thomas can get arrested and Sue Watt could get arrested. You know, because you've got to turn. They started something that they couldn't stop, and you know, and they've still got this ongoing court case that Andrew West started with Simon and Stephen Thomas and Sue Watt and Robert Watt in June 2020, which we had the case about in January. Remember, that's now gone back to November this year. But they've just started a complete mess. The only person here that's living here that is me. None of these people dare come back because of all this crap that they started. But
that's a good point.
yeah. So I don't know if you want to read on a bit more. Or...
Yeah, I do actually. I'm just quickly looking at something because I've just read the next paragraph, and you can tell this is live. Like literally, I review these documents as literally as you're hearing them.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me read the next paragraph. I was just looking at something else. I've got three screens in front of me, and I have to look left to right, and in center is the standardized. It says here, and this interests me quite a bit. The defence are plainly interested in the wider criminality of Christie, insofar as it may demonstrate that he regular, open brackets, and without involvement of John Jessup, close brackets, conducts fraudulent transactions of a type alleged here, and moreover, that has in the past drawn innocent dupes such as Jessup into his offending. Now, we need to go to a break and introduce the next song, Ralph. Would you like to propose your next song, please?
I would, yeah. And Nancy Sinatra, who's the daughter of Frank Sinatra, we had that great song in the previous one. I forgot what we called it. This is called Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down. And this is exactly what Declan did to me.
I actually know that song, actually.
You know it?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I remember that one. I've been unlucky with some of the guests lately in terms of remembering the songs, but let's play that now.
I was 5 and he was 6. We rode on horses made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white. He would always win the fight. Bang, bang, he shot me down. Bang, bang, I hit the ground. Bang, bang, that awful sound. Bang, bang, my baby shot me down. Seasons came and changed the time. When I grew up, I called him mine. He would always laugh and say, remember when we used to play? Bang, bang, I shot you down. Bang, bang, you hit the ground. Bang, bang, that awful sound. Bang, bang, I used to shoot you down. Music played and people sang. Just for me, the church bells rang. don't know why. And till this day, sometimes I cry. He didn't even say goodbye. He didn't take the time to lie. Bang, bang. He shot me down, bang, bang. I hit the ground, bang, bang. That awful sound, bang, bang. My baby shot me down.
Okay, we are back. That was Bang Bang. Not heard that for many, many years. Brought back some memories, actually. Okay, let's continue on with this. We're almost at the end of it anyway. This is from Richard Wright. I'm guessing he's a QC at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's a top QC in Yorkshire now. He's moved on a lot.
Okay, we have on many occasions now sought disclosure from the prosecution of the material that we have read to herein, but it doesn't even mention it, what it is, and would enable us to make a proper application to introduce the same in evidence. Now, I'm guessing, though, if John Jessup, he'd be talking from personal and first-hand knowledge, but they're looking to rely on prosecution evidence to build that case around whatever they're doing. That's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have not received the information that we have requested and require. We cannot therefore give any particulars of the application at this stage and can do no more to indicate that this might be made. So this is a love letter.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's just to just put it in the court bundle for the sake of it, and let's see what happens. We did make an application to the court for an extension of time to serve a proper application, such being dependent upon the Crown supplying us with the material. See, this is the thing, right? If he's saying you're a bad character, it should be his words, not other people's words.
No, exactly. But this is the connection between Richard Manning, I'm afraid.
Yeah, the only thing I could possibly add to that is, unless there's criminality, which he's asking to use as bad character, but these cases just stand alone. So even then, I don't think you could introduce it at an early stage. You know, like for example, you could be a prolific shoplifter and then suddenly do a murder. The fact that you're a prolific shoplifter has nothing to do with the fact that you perhaps were now a murderer.
Yeah.
Well,
this is a month before Andrew West is getting me jailed here with Keir Starmer. So, you know, they no wonder the CPS aren't giving anything out, because there's nothing to give out. They haven't got anything on me at all at this stage in the UK, apart from the one Benedict Clark count.
Okay, I see they're pulling at straws here now. I've
Yeah.
just read this now. We understand that the resident judge refused the application, which makes perfect sense to me. We therefore have no alternative but to submit this document acknowledging that it takes the matter nowhere. And as I said, it's a love letter, and it's simply restatement of the general position in this regard. It's like a fishing exercise, isn't it? But even, you know, it should be personal and first-hand knowledge. That's what it should be, and so it shouldn't rely on third-party information to present this personal and first-hand knowledge. The problem remains and can be expressed simply and clearly. Until we have the material, we cannot make this application. Oh my days.
Michael O'Gara lives in Ilkley as well. I mean, it's probably next door to Alex Bateman and his CPS wife. It's all connected. Anyway,
now let's move on to this document. This is addressed to Jane Thomas from West Yorkshire Police. Now, again, a couple of the questions has been asked about. It's ironic we talked about bad character. Geez, Stephen Thomas. It's about bad character basically. These are the accusers, and such as Stephen Thomas, Simon Thomas, cohorts, in my opinion. And this is a letter to her. The reason why I mentioned Jane Thomas is she's also a victim, in my opinion. So anyway, let's go on. This is dated I think it's the 25th of February or
28th February 2017. I'm in prison at this stage. She's been trying to get to Stephen Thomas, obviously done for the self-confessed rapes, quite aware of all the money laundering, the batterings that we read out that John Stevenson gave in his police statement that we played last week. This is an answer from the from the Professional Standards Department of West Yorkshire Police, led by Simon Bottomley. And this is an investigation that went on. So it's very, very interesting, is this?
Okay. I'm going to give this a go. My throat's playing off a bit. I'll give it a go, and then we'll see. If I need some relief, I'll let you know. This is from West Yorkshire Police. It does say the 28th. It's handwritten. I couldn't see it, but I've zoomed in now. I'm writing about the complaint you have made. It's quite a substantial response, 9 pages. I'm writing about the complaint you made in relation to the conduct of West Yorkshire Police. The matters subject of your complaint has been investigated by members of West Yorkshire Police Professional Standards Department. So this is the police investigating the police in terms of within themselves. So it's not gone to a third-party police force or anything like that. In the course of this investigation, accounts have been obtained from those subject of the complaint and known witnesses. In addition, the investigation officer has identified and examined other material relevant to your complaint. Now, one thing I will say, this has got to be the easiest conviction you could possibly get. It really is. It's laid out on the table. Anyway, the Police Reform Act requires the force to notify you of the outcome of blah, blah, blah. Who cares? A load of bollocks. In reviewing the allegations made in your complaint, I have to consider whether there is a realistic prospect of proving of misconduct proceedings, that the officer's behaviour fell below the standards set out in the standard professional behaviour. I tell you what, the bar must be really, 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 really high, because the evidence is being set before the court.
Well, blue crimes don't happen, do they?
Of course not, Ralph. Don't be so cynical. This has to be proved on the balance of probabilities. You don't even need that in this case.
No.
It's confessions of themselves, which means that it's more than likely that not the allegation is true. Superintendent Bottomley was the officer appointed to investigate your allegation, and he was assisted by P.S. Piper. What does P.S. mean?
Is that the Pied Piper?
What does P.S. mean? Just out of interest. Police superintendent? Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. The officers subject of your complaint are identified by Chief Superintendent Rowley. So there's a lot of people involved here. Romana.
Jane Thomas has complained about Detective Chief Superintendent Rowley, who is the chief criminal in this. Romana Senior that we've mentioned, Inspector Lawrence, who was head of the IOPC in 2013 when I was in prison here, Detective Inspector Stephen Taylor and DC Skidmore. You know, these are the complainants that Jane Thomas is raising. The person investigating the complainant is DC Superintendent Bottomley. They've all worked together for the last 20 years. But at least Jane Thomas hasn't included Cedric here because
police investigating the police. Taylor and Skidmore, man, they've got a lot to, well, even Senior as well, really.
Rowley and Bottomley are the ringleaders in this.
As a result of the inquiry, Superintendent Bottomley has prepared a report of his finding, to which I have given due consideration. Who actually wrote this? Oh, Julie Sykes, Chief Superintendent. Okay. Let's go down there. Okay, yeah. I have appended a copy of the report for your information. You'll complain, that's what it says, that officers have failed to properly investigate an offence of perjury which you have reported and supplied supporting evidence. The circumstances being that during the divorce proceedings, you believed your ex-husband, Stephen Thomas, lied under oath about his financial position. That's true.
It is.
It can't be denied. I mean, you would be a great witness, and with your bank statements there, say, here you go. The investigating officers report, that's without all the rape allegations as well. The investigation officers report addressed the matter, subject to complaint, and as such, I do not intend to repeat. The investigating officers report addresses this matter, subject of your complaint, and as such, I do not intend to repeat this matters here. When you initially reported your concerns to the police, I mean, I'm guessing it wouldn't be concerns, it'd be a complaint. Stephen Thomas was interviewed under caution. However, there was not enough evidence to support your allegations and no further actions were taken. How is that even possible, Ralph?
That was the 19th of March 2010.
How is that even possible?
Stephen Thomas was, yeah. How is it? Because they're all corrupt.
This is major.
It's a golf club and Masons and...
Yeah, but people won't believe you when you throw in things like golf clubs and the Masons are all in it together. But this is clear as light.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is clear as...
Look what it says next.
The matter has since been reviewed and the Crown Prosecution Service has been approached, who stated that the evidence test has not been met. Jeez.
And here's Ralph Christie running normal businesses at a very high standard of a professional level in Crete. Oh.
This is like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Like the lowest of the low.
Yeah. Come on, keep going.
Like you don't even have to like stretch to get to an apple. It's on the floor pretty much already. Oh my days. Oh my days. From the evidence available, it appears that the allegations of perjury has been properly dealt with by the office. You're having a laugh. How would you put your name to such a letter like this? It is also noted, in light of your complaint, further advice has been obtained by the CPS and the Force Crime Register, who concur with the original. So many people must be involved in this. Has she ever done a freedom of information request?
Well, the poor girl, she's been attacked in her house by the police, hasn't she?
Yeah,
I mean, I've got an email where the police are copied in by a police officer saying that if she doesn't back off, her and the persons whose statement that we read out last week, John Stevenson's, would be arrested. And that email is dated January 2021, just before the family court case. It's quite shocking.
With the allegation of perjury.
And this is Julie Sykes.
I'm assuming, why I'm trying to play devil's advocate, but it's hard to, because she's got all the evidence. I'm guessing she provided the same evidence that we've seen.
Julie Sykes, she knows that Stephen Thomas is a rapist. Susan Hoy, York CPS, knows Stephen Thomas is a rapist. Her husband does. O'Gara does. Elizabeth Manning, who arrested Jane Thomas in that video. DC Richard Ford does, who interviewed John Stevenson 3 times. Cedric Christie does. DCI Andrew Thornton does. Bottomley, who's done this investigation, does. Richard Manning does. PC Lyndon Thomas, who works at Ilkley Police Station, knows. Yeah, it's incredible. Anyway, let's try and get through as much as we can.
Police force
We'll have to deal with this next week as well.
That stupid injunction as well, which has no legal standing whatsoever. No. But they did that just to scare off. It seems to have worked as well. As such, I'm unable to upload your complaint. You know, you could do one. You're just as disgusting, Julie Sykes, as the rest of them, and do not intend taking any further action. The file has been considered by the Crown Prosecution Service as therefore is insufficient evidence. I wonder what they actually provided the CPS. That's what I'm saying about the freedom of information quest, to try and open up what they actually provided.
Yeah. Well, we've got
Um,
we've got Stephen, we've got DI Bottomley's this stupid report now to read through below, which is
I was just
incredible.
next. Oh yeah, okay. We've got complaint reference, blah blah blah. Complainant, Miss James Thomas. Officer subject of complaint, Detective Chief Inspector Chris Rowley, and it's signed off by. There's quite a few pages here, isn't it? Oh, this is the whole document.
Hmm.
It doesn't say who it signed off by. Who wrote this?
Simon Bottomley, the head of the IOPC now in West Yorkshire.
Right.
The guy that did the recording that we read out saying that 99.9% of West Yorkshire police officers are honest. We'll play that recording next week again, just to remind the listeners.
Right. Okay, no, it does say Rowley, Romana Senior, Chief Inspector Lawrenson, Stephen Taylor, DC Skidmore. These are the people subject to the complaint. Okay. Particulars of the complaint. Miss Thomas alleged that during divorce proceedings between her and her ex-husband, Stephen Thomas, Mr. Thomas lied. Sorry, let me just zoom in a bit more. Lied about his financial position. This meant that he did not receive the she did not receive the financial settlement that she was entitled to. Do you know, in these sort of proceedings as well, because technically it's a civil matter as well, that he would be questioned under oath in the High Court before a High Court judge. Similarly to where people fail to do disclosure and bankruptcies and that sort of stuff, they're questioned under oath in the High Court, and the sanctions are quite significant if you do tell the truth. And you can't just go about, I don't recall, I don't remember, and all that sort of jazz. But this is such a simple case.
Yeah.
She's got access to you when you've got bank statements.
Well, he's like, he said it in his divorce deposition, didn't he? That he'd raped her and that he'd stolen money and beaten his kids up.
Deposition, you mean? Yeah. Okay. The Miss Thomas therefore alleges that Stephen Thomas has committed perjury because he has lied under oath in court. Miss Thomas perceives that she was a victim of fraud and false representation of the sum of £300,000, and that she states she would have received a divorce settlement had Mr. Thomas not lied about the finance. Based on the numbers, she would have been entitled to a lot more than that. Miss Thomas reported her concern to the police, and this information she provided was reviewed by Romana Senior, the head of the Economic Crime Unit at West Yorkshire Police. Now, I just want to go back to one point there. I wonder if the word is fraud and false representation. I have to think about that one whilst we're going and carry on talking. Miss Thomas
was working with Cedric from January 2014 to get me nailed, even communicating with Jane Thomas, as was D.I. Bottomley, and then they wouldn't disclose anything of Stephen Thomas's clear crimes to the prosecution and my defence. But they're all in bed together. My defence is in bed. I mean, Tayyab Ali's got a lot to answer for as well. There's nobody that's immune from this now in that court case. I mean, you got Declan and Cameron were sat in the box in the public gallery, just part of playing the narrative. But they knew what they provided the evidence, didn't they? So it's just a massive pantomime or show, and the only person that doesn't know the script is me.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the word fraud. Whether or not that's applicable, really. I'm just trying to think about it.
I'll give Simon Thomas a quick weekly ring, see if he answers.
What, you want to do that now?
Simon Thomas from Green Home Flooring. Please leave your name and number, and I'll get straight back to you. Thank you.
Hi, Simon. It's Ralph here. Nope.
your message, just hang up. Or to hear more options, please press 1.
Hi, Simon, it's Ralph. You don't want to get straight back to me, do you? Hey, it's all coming out about this terrible things that your family has done to my family and my businesses and my investors. And I see you're doing a lot of work for the Principal Trust Children's Charity, doing marathons and walking by canals and cycling. Sounds a bit like what Jimmy Savile did. Are you feeling guilty with the way that your brother has treated your children and his own children? Come on, mate, let's get this wrapped up. Don't be a coward, Ralph. Sorry, what were you going to say, brothers?
I don't know. You're running the show now. Yeah, it's definitely perjury and also contempt of court, and I guess it's fraudulent non-disclosure. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Okay, let's just carry on.
Mrs. Thomas.
Miss Thomas states that Miss Senior, C.L. Lawrenson and D.I. Taylor failed to investigate the perjury correctly, and by doing so, they have perverted the course of justice. That sounds very true to me.
Exactly.
He also alleges that DCS Rowley was complicit in perverting the course of justice as the head of crime for West Yorkshire Police. She alleges that these officers are corrupt. Really?
We know they're corrupt.
And that they protect her ex-husband. There's no other, anybody who's cope as mentors cannot come to any other conclusion. In July 2016, Miss Thomas provided a statement in relation to the complaint, which is exhibited as JT1. This is dated the 13th of July 2016. Her complaint against the officers are detailed within the statement as follows. Miss Thompson alleges that DC Skidmore did not do anything about the crimes committed by Stephen Thomas, even though Miss Thomas feels that the crime was easily identified, which we know, I've said, is low-hanging fruit. It's the most easiest conviction you can get. Within the documents she presented to him, she describes a meeting with DC Skidmore at police headquarters in Wakefield in February 2010, where DCI Skidmore looked nervous and uncomfortable and stated, "It's them upstairs that make the decisions. Then it's nothing I can do." Is he talking about God or something?
Talking about Sir Norman Betterson that was upstairs at the time.
No, I'm being facetious.
Well, I think Sir Norman Betterson does think he's God. He was the one that was behind about the Hillsborough thing. And what have you.
Actually, we got an episode on that on this Tuesday. Mr. Thomas alleges that from March 2010 to date, DC Stephen Taylor refused to accept the truth in relation to the case against Stephen Thomas, despite acknowledging receipt of the compelling evidence against Mr. Thomas. That's very good. That sounds very true to me. She states that in March 2014, she was advised in writing by the CPS that she was to communicate with the police about the matter, as she had been identified as a witness and a victim in the case. Miss Thomas exhibit reference JT2. She states that she was told by Superintendent Bottomley by email on the 2nd of March 2014 that she must refer future contact to Taylor. That's the one that later basically got this quasi injunction, didn't he?
Yeah, Taylor got the injunction from so he could continue to work with Cedric and remain a senior to nail me regardless of the truth. And we did read out that DC Bottomley's email on the 2nd of March 2014. I think it was in episode 9, many weeks ago. So yeah, everything's concise in what we're reporting.
This is making a lot of sense in terms of what she's been saying. Ms. Thomas states that she tried to communicate with DA. However, he issued her with this is what we were talking about. Harassment warning. I mean, that's not worth the paper it's written on. I've never
She's
seen.
crying out for help, isn't she? She's been raped, she's been robbed, she's been battered, she's been kicked out of cars. Just
No. It's a shame that I mean, when you're in this situation, you're in deep, aren't you? You're like sinking in the sands. I mean, the first thing that you'd think about is private prosecutions, which the CPS don't like, but it's there. It's in the statute book, and they
well,
should.
he offered to pay that. He offered to pay that Mr. Stevenson, an amount of money to rob a house or find somebody to rob a house, didn't he?
Right. Okay. Um, that communications were unwarranted and unwelcome. I'm amazed the person's still in the job, to be honest, but there you go. That's the police force for you. Miss Thomas has provided a copy of the harassment warning which she exhibited in JD3. She states that D.I. Taylor was a senior investigating officer in the case. It seems to her that this was an attempt to pervert the course of justice. Yet again, I've added that bit that doesn't say there, allowing the criminal Stephen Thomas to walk free. Well, it seems to have happened, and causing her financial loss of £300,000. See, the thing is as well, on that point, there's a monetary issue anyway, and I'm guessing that's all they're focusing on here. I've not read the entire document. I'm going through it as it is here now. But there is the rape issues and stuff like that, which also didn't get investigated. But yet he actually confessed to rape in private court, in family court proceedings. She states that Stephen Thomas has and still is benefiting from the proceeds of his crimes with property, assets, expensive cars, and luxurious lifestyle. Miss Thomas alleges that in 2012, she raised her concerns to D.I. Taylor and DC Skidmore to their senior officer, DCI Mick Lawrenson. She provided him with the documents that proved that Stephen Thomas had committed perjury and fraud and that acknowledged receipt of them. She states that soon afterwards, she received a letter from DCI Lawrenson that stated that perjury was not a crime. Really?
When there was only one witness.
There's a judge.
Yes.
How he swore in before a judge.
Yeah, just read the next sentence and then we'll talk a bit more.
Jeez, fuck's sake. Oh my days. Let me just read that back again. She states that soon afterwards she received a letter from DCI Lawrence and stated that perjury is not a crime when there is only one witness.
It's a signed statement.
I'm guessing he's responding to this later, right?
Oh, yeah.
Normally this would be bullet pointed so you could follow it quite easily. But this is a bunch of fucking. Oh, excuse me. No, don't excuse me. This is disgusting. Miss Thomas states that the letter is outrageous, and with the compelling evidence she provided, I agree with her.
Yeah.
This is egregious, not just outrageous, in an attempt to pervert the course of justice. I can sense.
But they had to convict me, didn't they? They had to convict me.
I can sense the anguish that she must be going through.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine? I'm saying to Grattage and Tirani and Tayab Ali, where's Stephen Thomas? Oh, it's nothing to do with Stephen Thomas. And all that.
We're definitely not going to get through all this in this episode, but we're going to go as far as we can.
Yeah, we can continue this next week. I mean,
this makes my blood boil. This does. It really does. Miss Thomas alleges that in 2013 she raised her concerns about DC Skidmore, Taylor, and Lawrenson to West Yorkshire Police, and I still can't believe that paragraph. She states she was advised that Romana Senior had taken over from DC Lawrenson of the head of Economic Crime Unit, and that. Actually, here's a question, Ralph. I don't know if you know the answer to this. Why was the Economic Crime Unit dealing with a complaint regarding perjury?
This is all embedded, isn't it, together?
Just past the hot potato, basically.
Yeah.
And that Miss Thomas should liaise with her. Miss Thomas then contacted Miss Senior by email and telephone. She described Miss Senior's behaviour as rude and evasive, which made her concerns worse. She states that she was finally given a letter on the day of her statement, and exhibits were, does that say taken?
Were taken from her at the by the police.
By the police on the 28th of October 2014. Miss Thomas had exhibited a letter as JT5. She states that the letter clearly shows acknowledgement of her statement and exhibits, and that no investigation was going to take place into them. She believes that this action had perverted the course of justice.
Which it has in my case, isn't it? You know, because if this had all come out, there'd have been no trial at Bradford for me. But of course, they had to force the prosecution of me to save their own reputation. But anyway, here we are in 2026. It's the end for them, isn't it? Really, all these corrupt officers. It's absolutely shocking. I can't even believe people in Ilkley, because it is a very nice place, is Ilkley, realise some of the absolute paedophiles and corrupt people that actually live there. I mean, I've got some great friends that live there, like Richard Holmes and Stephen Richardson and people like that. But then you've got all these lawyers and CPS and legal people living there that have just completely stitched me up.
Okay. The Miss Thomas alleges that DC Chief Superintendent Rowley, head of Protective Services Crime. Again, I don't understand why he's dealing with it as well, or being involved in it, or touched it. Has been instrumental in protecting Stephen Thomas for many years. Is he one of these people that's part of the golf club and all that jazz?
I don't know, but when he's head of Protective Service Crime, that means he's head of protecting the image of West Yorkshire Police.
Or is that what that means? Is it?
Yeah, he's the right-hand man to the chief constable. So if anybody says anything bad about West Yorkshire Police, he has to protect the police force, even though the police are the criminals themselves. That's what that is.
What's it called? Protective what?
Protective Service Crime. Head of Protective Service Crime. And it has been instrumental in protecting Stephen Thomas for many years. Well, of course he has.
Okay. It says here, it's an element of the police force dedicated to safeguarding vulnerable individuals and investigating crimes where victims have been targeted based on vulnerability, exploitation, and specific personal characteristics. That kind of makes sense. Why he's involved, I guess.
Well, DCI, he actually went on to become the Assistant Chief Constable at Humberside after this, where he's protected Michael Lockwood, who was the head of the IOPC of the whole of the UK, who was arrested in 2021 for crimes that he committed in Humberside that Rowley knew about. Nobody knows what's happened to that case. It's just been pushed back and pushed back. It's probably just been buried. People have forgotten about it. He was the head of the IOPC for the whole of the UK up until 2021 or 2022. Michael Lockwood, you can Google him. He's got criminal, I think he's pleaded guilty to it or something like that, but you just don't hear about it. It's just buried, isn't it, like anything else? And then he went on to be the Chief Constable of Lancashire. I told the crime commissioner at the time, I've forgotten his name, about all the crimes of Rowley when he was the Chief Constable there. I wouldn't go through all the replies I had back from them. They just didn't believe it. And I was telling the truth. There was a DCI, Vesey Bateson, that was involved in protecting the grooming gangs in Rotherham. I think he works at the NIC now, NCI. He was working under Rowley in Humberside Police, not prosecuting criminals, but protecting them.
Okay, we've only got a few minutes left, Ralph. I just want to complete this paragraph. he has been instrumental in protecting Stephen Thomas for many years. She states that every time she tried to contact Romana Senior, she was told that she was in a meeting discussing the case. Miss Thomas then questioned whom she was in a meeting with and was told that the meeting was with Rowley and who was overseeing the case. Miss Thomas states that she believes Rowley directed the other officers subject to the complaint to conclude with him that he was protected Stephen Thomas. Did I read that right? That he has protected Stephen Thomas from prosecution. She states that she believes that DC Rowley is intercepting all emails that she sends to West Yorkshire Police and that he is directing someone else to do so. Now, that's page 4. So make a note of that, Ralph, where we're ending, please. Yeah. What more are you going to say to the end of this episode? And then can you introduce your final song, please?
Well, I mean, it's all out there, isn't it? It's all exactly what's happened. We've categorized it at 22 episodes. I don't know how far we're going to go on. I've sent my emails out to the 185 people. We're going to pick up a few more and send another email out. Sent 2 to Romana Senior this week. Nothing come back. Well, actually, she did say in reply that she's not working till May the 5th. That in my eyes, she should never work again as a police officer. So I have to take stock because it is quite shocking what's going on. You've got you've everybody since April. It started with Simon Thomas, April 2006, and then they even manipulated my son and my brother for whatever reasons in 2014 to go against me. We're now in April 2026. It's very, very sad. It's very wicked that all this kind of stuff goes on, kiddie figgling and what have you. Never been part of my life and never will be. Anyway, my final song, Brannis, which I think is very appropriate, is Rolf Harris's 2 Little Boys, who had 2 little toys. And this, we know what happened to Rolf Harris, and let's hope the same happens to Simon and Stephen Thomas.
Okay, let's play that now. Just something else that I just want to say before we end. People, please Google police cover-ups in the UK, and you will get a lot of information. If you believe it doesn't exist, it does. It exists everywhere in most institutions, large specifically. Of any guys, but yeah, just look into it. You'll see a lot. We're actually covering the Hillsborough disaster this week, doing a special episode, and that was a massive cover up to an epic scale, absolute epic scale. So let's play your song.
Two little boys had 2 little toys. Each had a wooden horse. Gaily they played each summer's day. Warriors both, of course. One little chap then had a mishap. Broke off his horse's head. Wept for his toy, then cried with joy as his young playmate said, "Did you think I would leave you crying when there's room on my horse for 2? Climb up here, Jack, and don't be crying. I can go just as fast with 2. When we grow up, we'll both be soldiers, and our horses will not be toys. And I wonder if we'll remember when we were 2 little boys." Long years passed, war came so fast. Bravely they marched away. Cannon roared loud, and in the mad crowd, wounded and dying lay. Up goes a shout, a horse dashes out, out from the ranks so blue. gallops away to where Joe lay. Then came a voice he knew. Did you think I would leave you dying when there's room on my horse for two? Climb up here, Joe will soon be flying. I can go just as fast with two. Did you say, Joe, I'm all a tremble? Perhaps it's the battle's noise, but I think it's that I remember when we were two little boys. Did you think I would leave you dying? There's room on my horse for two. I'm up here, Joe will soon be flying back to the ranks so blue. Can you feel, Joe, I'm all a tremble? Perhaps it's the battle's noise, but I think it's that I remember when we were two little boys.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time. And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows? Only time. We gotta Who can say